everything recently, nothing seemed to be blocking
Yeah.
that I could tell.
I got the feeling it was take the NES game out, blowing it,
Oh, blow on it,
put it
put it
back
back
in.
in.
Yeah.
That
See,
does make
be better.
sense.
Yeah. Because technology is about the same as it was 35 years ago.
Okay, it says we're live. Visibility, comments, all that fun stuff. All right, well, until we
A
know
little
it's a
bit.
problem.
You want me to go try and make a comment?
Yeah, maybe.
I'll do it. On it. Let's see here. Yeah. Yeah.
Got live chat on. Who can send messages? Anyone?
It's gonna be like, hey,
Nope.
doofus, that's you. Why are you trying to leave a comment? Don't do it. All right, so say something.
Checking to make sure the comments are working. If you're watching.
It's strange watching me. It's working.
Oh, it's working. Okay.
Hi.
That doesn't look like you though.
Yeah, I gotta get this off the screen because this is gonna stress me out having two of the same things open, but one's 3 seconds behind the other one.
All right. So today we are going to be discussing, maybe touching on the quarterfinals events, but I don't want to spend too much time there because I don't think it's relevant for a lot of people. And then we'll also be talking about just CrossFit and preventing injuries, uh, and kind of like the breadth that is there, because that's kind of a deeper topic that has a lot of subtleties too. So let's start with quarterfinals. Have you seen the events?
No, but just to make sure that's what we're talking about on episode 8 of See You in Valhalla, the podcast live with Patty McMuscles and
Can't even say it though.
Patty McMuscles. I was practicing like 6 or 7 times. I even did the ab, tab, dab, cab, like trying to warm up my mouth to get it going. But anyway,
Is your goal to have a different name
every time
every time? I
until I
like it.
have something that sticks. Like I know you have a
Yeah.
following, you have like the whole thing. So eventually, but until then, we'll keep it easy. I haven't to answer your question. No, I haven't seen the
Okay.
workout. What
Well,
is it?
they're horrendous as far as like skill level immediately went through the roof.
Oh, geez.
Um, so I think event one is actually you could probably pull them up on their site.
I know I
Um,
can.
I think they're available to the public. I don't think it matters if you qualified or not. But anyway, event one is 9 front squats at 225 for men and probably 155 for women.
I'm about to share. About to share the screen here. Run through it.
Yeah, so check this out. Yeah, there you go. All right, so 9 front squats, 9 handstand walks, 25 feet each handstand walk. So just doing some quick math, that's 225 feet of handstand walking. It's decent amount there.
Yeah.
15 front squats, 15 muscle ups, 21 front squats, 21 chest to wall handstand push-ups. So you're facing the wall in that inverted position.
Super
Yeah.
inverted.
And they make you do a wall walk into it to the wall walk standard and
Uh-huh.
then touch your head to the floor and chest to the wall at the top.
Yeah, nice.
So really difficult standard, especially because they make you do a wall walk into it every time. And then you can see the weights too. It's like not light, 225 to start, and then it goes down. So
That's
started
crazy.
off with a real tough shoulder workout for sure. Like shoulders were lit up from this. In fact, still are. And I did it
Oh, you did it?
yesterday. Yeah, I did this
Oh, yeah,
yesterday.
nice.
I did not finish in the time cap, full
Yeah.
disclosure. I did
Or
get
what
some
was the time cap?
wall, 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I did get some handstand push-ups. Um,
Nice.
but yes, that was yeah, very spicy. Really the whole time I was just trying to manage my heart rate so I could do some handstand push-ups. And I was doing like 3 at a time, but I was like max effort, 9 reps in.
Holy
Um,
cow.
so yeah, it was a good little test. Fun. I like a lot of variety like that. That's a fun workout, I think, but it also is fun because I can do it. It's not very fun if you can't do something.
Yeah, that's
Um,
crazy.
and then event number 2, which I don't know if it's going to be on this page or not.
Mm,
Um, I think you're on the main site page, so this is
yeah.
just the regular programming. So you would need to go over to the games page, and then probably game season, or you could see tests right there, quarterfinals, see
Yeah.
tests. So we already went over 1. Now go to 2. Here's workout number 2.
Oh, there it is.
So 8 dumbbell snatches with arm 1, 8 overhead walking lunges with arm 1, and then you can go to arm 2 and do the same thing. And then you do 40
Nice.
crossovers with the jump rope.
Nice.
So they
Any
brought the
any type of
the
rope?
crossover in. Yeah, it doesn't specify around types of ropes that you can use. I used one of our noodle ropes at the gym, and
Yeah,
it was
nice. I was
pretty
gonna
close
say
to
one of the
unbroken
penne
the whole
noodle
time.
ones. Nice.
Yeah, it
Holy
was pretty
cow.
close to unbroken on that whole thing as far as the crossovers go. And I would
Yeah.
intentionally set the dumbbell down on the after the 7th rep, take a breath or 2, and then grab it and do your last dumbbell snatch right into the overhead lunge,
Uh-huh.
just to be efficient there. But look at the weight on that dumbbell.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a
Yeah,
big
pretty
bastard.
significant.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm not officially signing up for the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
I'm just doing the workouts as if I did sign up for them. So I'm still trying to hold myself to the same time and standard and all that stuff, and weight, but I don't have a 70-pound dumbbell, so 65 it was. I don't think it would have changed too much. I did about 4 rounds here.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, that was actually a really fun workout.
You enjoyed that one?
Mainly because you can't go ham. Like it's too heavy and too
Yeah.
complex to like just go nuts. Like you just kind of have to stay steady. So it was kind of just a fun workout for me.
You coulda used the, since we didn't have a 70-pound one, you coulda just, like, done RX Plus and then that funny looking, 60-pound one.
Which 60-pound one? What are you talking
Oh, the
about?
90. So, it's just a
Oh,
funny
the
looking
90.
60.
Yeah. The funny looking 60 because it's
Yeah.
90. Um, anyways, go to test 3.
Okay.
These are I've done those first 2. I haven't done the rest of these yet. So test number 3. This one's crazy to me. Just 5 burpee box jump overs, 1 clean and jerk. You add a clean and jerk every round. You do 5 rounds for time.
I mean, I think you can blow through that one, right?
Yeah, I mean, just look at the box height, 30 inches. That's
Uh-huh.
nothing. Still
And the
easy.
weight?
Look at the weight though. That's big boy weight right there.
Yeah,
So yeah,
nice.
I'm not even sure I can do this one if I'm being totally honest.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I'm interested. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, dang, that's crazy. That's nuts, man.
Um,
Is that like 2 of you? The weight?
no, not quite, but three. Let's see, 330 would be 2 of me.
Alright. So we're not that far off.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
crazy.
heavy clean and jerk. Like
Yeah,
that's really close to my max clean and jerk.
yeah, and you just keep adding
So
'em. Just add 1 every time.
yeah, just keep doing reps. So yeah, I'm not worried too much about round 1. Um, round any other round, I'm a little nervous about.
Yeah, heck yeah.
So I might get time capped on that one. That's real heavy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so they have 4 listed too?
There's 5
Oh,
tests.
alright.
This one just looks like it's a grinder and it's gonna hurt
Yeah,
the next day.
yeah.
20-minute AMRAP. You're gonna do a 1,000-meter row, 50 GHD sit-ups, 500-meter row, 25 V-ups. I've never seen V-ups in competition, so that should be pretty interesting to see how I haven't read the standards on that, but I'm
Uh-huh.
interested to see how they read.
Yeah, that's
But then
interesting.
also, um, just looking at that, you kind of look at it and you go, "Oh, that wouldn't be too bad one time through." But then you go, "Oh, it's 20 minutes, so you're gonna
Yeah.
get through it
Uh,
probably 2 times,
yep.
which is 100 GHD sit-ups and 50 V-ups." Which V-ups doing 25 V-ups at a time tired is actually really tough. So that'll be a really hard workout, I think.
Doing 25 V-ups while you're fresh is hard.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say 25 fresh is like kind of where you just want to stop, and that's it,
Yeah,
no more.
just stop.
Like you're done at 25. All right,
And
let's look at 5.
closing it out here.
This one looks really fun too.
Deadlifts, 225, just
Uh,
deadlift heavier,
21
heavier.
deadlift, 21 chest to bar, 15 deadlift, 15 bar muscle ups, 9 deadlift, 9 rope climbs. So the pull gets more and more complicated as far as the upper body pull goes, but the reps are just decreasing. And then for the deadlift, it's also decreasing, but it's increasing in weight. And the weight
Oh,
doesn't look
yeah, the
crazy. Like
option.
315 is pretty manageable, I feel like, for
Yeah,
a deadlift. Yeah.
wow.
So
So, question, you said that it gets, the pulling for the upper body. Why would, rope climbs be more difficult than a bar muscle up?
I think it's more pulling. It's more time under tension because you have to
Oh,
do how many reps without letting your grip go at all.
yeah,
Whereas with a bar
got it.
muscle up, you could just do one rep. It takes a couple seconds and then be done for a couple seconds if you wanted to,
Yeah.
right? Or you're getting rest on your grip kind of at the top position. So the tension is changing all the time. Whereas in the rope climb, your tension's pretty damn constant in your grip,
And
which
scarier, getting up
you'll
there to
feel.
let go and touch the beam at the top.
Yeah. What's cool though is that it doesn't say like legless rope climb. That
Oh,
would be brutal.
that'd be terrifying, actually. We have a comment here. Have to let us know if Katie made the cut. I actually haven't checked in with her today, and I know that you had talked to her real briefly yesterday, so, I
Yeah,
mean, I
it
guess
sounds like she never got an email, which is a little surprising because
yeah,
she's clearly within the percentage of doing it. My only question was, um, it was like,
the age group thing.
well, no, that was my original thought, and then now what I was thinking, I was wondering if there was like a minimum work requirement from the open that they had to hit on each workout.
Oh.
Like you had to do X amount of handstand push-ups in that last workout, or X
Oh,
amount of
gotcha.
ring muscle ups in the first workout. Like I don't know. I haven't heard any of that before,
Mhm.
but that would be the only thing I could think of because I think she's well enough into that 90 plus percentile. I don't know why she wouldn't have
Yeah,
got
but
the
maybe
email.
not have some of the moves that they want to see.
Yeah, maybe. I
Yeah,
mean,
interesting.
after seeing the events, it's pretty clear why they might do something like that. I mean,
Yeah,
all of them, there is no longer like in the open, they always kind of have those really super challenging things. It's like, if you can even get there, you can do that.
yeah.
Right. But in these quarterfinals, I mean, they're front loaded. I mean, like
That first
handstand
workout
walk
looked
right out the
brutal.
gate.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to even
So,
figure out how I would do a handstand push-up after walking to the wall with, like, you have to be so up and down, like, so
yeah,
vertical,
it
right?
was pretty challenging, especially under that much shoulder fatigue. The handstand walks really gas you for the whole work, and that's just, to me, it was a lot of handstand walks. I spent easily that was probably where I spent the most of my time in the whole workout. It's just the handstand
How'd you feel
walks.
about it, though? Did you I mean, like, getting through it, but did you fail a lot or what?
No, I had no failed reps. I executed everything on both workouts, really. I'm happy with how I executed. That
Mhm.
being said, a lot of what the way I'm executing is because I'm taking 0 risks, because there's 0 I'm not trying to compete in it, and
Yeah,
with everything I've had going on at home, I just knew that level of stress was unnecessary. So it's really just been like, "All right, I'm gonna do the workout, I'm gonna try, I'm not gonna not try, but I'm definitely gonna be smart and conservative so that I can still go home and make dinner and stuff like that."
yeah, yeah.
So,
Man, where's your bail
um
point with your chest to the wall like that? You just go off to the side or what?
yeah, I think so. That's I mean, that's basically how you wanna get down anyway. It's just
That's
almost
true.
like cartwheeling out of it. Um, but yeah, it was a grind.
Huh.
Really, like, if you arch your back at all, you're it's tough to overcome.
Yeah, that's rough. Dang,
But
well,
then you're
nice
so
job, man.
tired, it's hard not to. Yeah, it was a fun workout. So anyway, yeah, the quarterfinal tests went from, like you got your open and you can make sure you like that clearly defines the open is different in a sense, right?
Yeah,
And then for those that are curious about quarterfinals, like how it works is you have to get invited. Once you get invited, they released all the workouts on Thursday, so yesterday midday, and you have 24 hours to do workouts 1 and 2, and then you have another 24 hours to put in scores for workouts 3 and 4. and then another 24 hours for the fifth workout. So basically, you can do them in any order you want, but the caveat there is you also have to put them in a different order. So while you could have just done all 5 yesterday and be done with doing them, you still have to wait and put in your stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or you could do, hey, I really want to do, let's say, the clean and jerk one while I'm most fresh, which is, what, test 3 or 4 or whatever.
Mhm.
But you still have to do 1 and 2 within the 24-hour period.
And then so you couldn't enter 3 in on day 1?
No.
Okay. Interesting.
So yeah, they put a premium on kind of like one. It's a little more competition style. Like if you were to go do a in-person competition, it'd be like several events in a day or a couple days, right? They've really kind of done something similar there. Um, and then they try to kind of seems like they try to pigeonhole you into not being able to go in the most optimal order, and you just kind of have to. You can only like I did workout 2, then workout 1 because I felt like that would be better for me.
I remember what workout 2 was. Oh, yeah, with the crossovers.
Yeah, I felt like that wouldn't be too damaging, but it's also not one I would think I could do after doing test 1 with all the overhead stuff.
Yeah.
So, happy with
Dang.
the decisions I made. Um, all right, so anyway, let's move on to today's topic, which is, are we doing injury prevention or are we doing how to stay away from injury? I guess it's kind of the same thing. So there's avoiding injury in CrossFit, and there's
Mhm.
injury prevention, which means you're being proactive about it.
Yeah. I would personally get more out of injury prevention,
So being proactive about it.
yeah, being proactive, rather than, like, going
Um,
out and just being like YOLO, you know what I mean?
well,
Trying to
so
lift
here's
400.
here's what I mean by like differentiating these two attitudes about it. There's avoiding injury. All right. So avoiding injury is it's not as proactive. It's more like, okay, here's the workout. Here's how I'm going to modify it so that I hit the stimulus and that there's really low risk for me at all at any given point. That's it, right? But as far as injury prevention goes, it would be a matter of kind of assessing and evaluating where you're at risk of getting injured
Mhm.
and then creating workouts and plans and accessory work or whatever to prevent that from happening, which is a very different approach. I mean, you
Yeah.
could use that approach in staying away from injury, just like it in the first example, but um, this is a more direct, like, hey, I know I'm at risk of injury here because of X, Y, and Z. So I need to make sure I have accessory work regularly to avoid it.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Gotcha.
Whereas I'm just going to scale every workout as I go.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, well, shoot, what gets you most excited? Because I feel like personally, there's a lot of things that I could learn from both of them. I've got like a nagging shoulder injury. I did come back and work through like a knee injury at the beginning of the open. So there's like a lot of things I guess that are relevant, and I'm sure that I'm not the only person that would get something out of that.
Yeah.
So
So there is, we're going to go about, so due to time, we're going to go with the first one. So it's just how do I do CrossFit and avoid injury, not how do I prevent injury
yeah,
and do CrossFit.
perfect.
Um, and the reason being is because that's a lot more nuanced. We have to talk about how do you assess for that and how do you
Ah,
plan based off of assessment findings and things like that. So that's a different path. It's a little more complicated and nuanced. Whereas the other path is a little bit more just be smart, you know?
yeah, different
Um,
podcast, different day.
yeah, that and I think first we have to clarify what injury means. So I give like a seminar once a year about this to the public, and basically what we're hitting on here is um, in that workshop it's all about injuries and pain, right? So I will define different things around that. So first off, we have insult, then you have the word irritation, then you have the word pain, and then you have the word injury. All of those need to be defined so that we can clearly communicate around it because you've already used the word injury in terms that there was no probably real injury.
Yeah.
right? So here's how we define it. So insult when um
Low hanging fruit, like, I I wanted to say so many things, like insult, but go ahead.
okay, what do you want to say about insult? What does insult mean to you?
Uh, an insult would be like hold on, do you want me to try and tie this together into, like, workout terms?
No, no, you do you, and then
Yeah.
I'll tie it together
Okay. An
for everyone
insult would
else.
be maybe just, like, a quick little, like, jab at somebody, like
Okay.
a like a like a four-letter word or something.
Like you're being a real see you next Tuesday.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I almost texted you that earlier just as, like, a happy St. Patrick's Day type thing, but
Yeah.
I didn't.
Um, okay, so insult, right? I think the theme around that is, yeah, it's like words. They don't actually hurt, but you feel them, right? Um, but there is no physical contact, but you feel them. Well, in the case of this language we're in, it could be like you put on your shirt and you don't love where the seam touches you, but then you wear it for 10 minutes, you no longer notice.
Forget about it.
Exactly. That's an
Okay,
insult where
okay,
initially you recognize that something's uncomfortable or something's just not quite comfortable. I wouldn't,
okay.
maybe it's not quite to the scale of uncomfortable, but it's just not comfortable, right? So that's insult,
Yeah,
right? And typically you have I forget what that response is called, but that response is basically your body just adapts and it diminishes that sensation, right? So if it's the same thing, you tap your forehead and keep tapping, eventually you just stop feeling it, right? It would take a while.
okay.
So yeah,
Like
I
a
mean,
drip
if
on
you
the
want to
head?
try it now, like go ahead, you have to start now, but then by the end of the podcast, we'll tell you how you're feeling.
Yes, Chinese
Um,
water torture.
yeah, but that's essentially it. It's a sensation that's so frequent and so constant that your body will diminish the sense. It's the same thing when you walk into like a house and it's not yours, or maybe it is, and you're like, man, that doesn't smell right. It stinks, right? But then you're there for 5 minutes and no longer
Yeah,
smell it.
you get
It's the
used to it.
same thing. Your senses
Okay.
adjust and kind of diminish the what would have been an alarming sense in the first place. Um, Go ahead.
And this would be, like, on the scale of, like, pain, like we're talking about, right? Or like an
Yep.
in
So an insult is like you're not going to really notice it much, right? Sit in your chair and don't move a muscle. Eventually, you'll be insulted,
okay.
right? Or
And
actually, sorry,
also
we'll go from there.
yeah,
Initially, you'll be insulted. Eventually, you won't really notice, and then later on, you'll move down the chain and go to irritation.
okay.
So irritation, if you want to take a stab at that, you can.
I'm actually good at this because I find myself actually very irritating, or at least I've been told that I
So,
can be very irritating, and it's one of
Katie's
those
like,
things where it's like,
you're so
you just don't
irritating.
stop. You find it, and I love Haley, right? But, like, at, the decathlon, she was very irritated by some of my comments that I was making, and I think that that probably will hit close to home.
Yes,
Am I right? You saw. She was
you are good at
irritated.
that,
Yeah,
irritating people. Yes, that's yeah.
yeah,
So the irritation is one that just kind of doesn't leave, right? And you have to do something about it. You feel like you can't just sit there and take it,
yeah,
right? Or you could, if you really force yourself, you could sit there and take it, but for the most part, it would be easier for you to just walk away,
yeah,
right? In the case of your actual irritation.
yeah,
But when we're talking about pain, it's like, okay, sit in the chair. Initially, you're insulted because you could feel the chair and it doesn't feel comfortable. But then eventually the senses diminish. And then 40 minutes later, you're not allowed to move. Things are going to start aching and you're going to be
yeah,
like, what the hell is this? Like, I've never noticed this pain before. Why do I have so much pain? All that is irritation, right? So you're just now become irritated with the same stimulus to the point where you're like, get this fucking thing off of me or get me out of it.
yeah,
That's irritation. And
got
that's
it.
probably the most common thing we're seeing in fitness sometimes is just we're getting irritated with repetitive movement and we just need to modify some movements a little bit to bring us out of irritation.
Feel like I go through these first 2 steps every day. Like, I notice you're standing and notice I'm sitting. I've got myself a nice comfortable little chair here. My office, I do have a stand-up desk, but I don't use it nearly as often as I should. But when I feel my legs, they like I'm like, at first, you're right. It's what was it? It wasn't oh, what was the first one?
Insult.
Insult. I'm like, oh man, my legs are starting to feel just like I'm becoming one with the chair. You know what I mean?
Yep.
and then it gets uncomfortable, and then I'm like, "I gotta stand up. Like, this is
Yep.
terrible. I can't sit any
Yeah, so
longer."
that's where
And from
irritation
there,
hurt it gets you to the point where you're gonna do something about it,
yeah.
typically. Um, and then going down the chain, which isn't necessarily a chain because you'll realize when we define it, it's a little different, but pain. So defining pain is it's actually the emotional response to irritation or injury or insult, right? So it's more of how you feel about it is
Got it.
what pain really is. So the irritation sets in your knee, let's say from just sitting for so long,
Mhm.
and you're like, man, it's so crazy. Well, you you didn't hurt your knee, like it's not injured, but it's definitely irritated.
Yeah.
Um, and then you start thinking about all the things that that makes you feel like frustrated that it's hurting right now, frustrated that you're even aware of it, frustrated you can't pay attention to other things because this is distracting you, right? So pain is usually that response where it's like, okay, this is actually getting on my nerves a little bit, emotionally speaking.
So how you handle it. It's not necessarily pain is like actual pain. It's how you handle the
Yeah,
irritation.
I mean, well, that's why there's mental and physical pain, and they're actually the same thing,
Whoa,
right?
I had never thought of that.
Still an emotional response to a stimulus,
'Kay.
right? And
How you
and a
handle it.
connotation is negative, right? It's almost never
Not
positive.
enjoying it.
You're never like, "Oh, it hurts so good" in
Yeah.
real life. Like, you're always like, "It hurts," but you know there's gonna be relief afterwards, and that's what feels good. Like,
It's a song, but it's a fanciful song because nobody's
it
ever gonna be
never
like, "Oh, that
actually
feels
hurts
good."
so good, right?
Yeah.
Actually, well, maybe I'm trying to think of an actual time, but usually there's another stimulus you're getting that's not pain, and
Yeah.
that's what
Like,
hurts
after
so
a
good
good
can be.
workout, you're like, "Oh, that kinda feels good."
Yeah,
Like, I
but
can
the
feel
pain's
it.
gone then.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, that's very much like pain. If we just kind of put that in that box, that's what pain is, just the response to everything, right? And then you have injury. And the way that this talk usually goes is we just put the quotes on the board. I can't fill in the blank. Injury is where you no longer can do something,
Oh, okay.
right? So
Physically unable.
when your knee is in pain and irritated, but you can still squat, it is not injured.
Okay.
Because if there was an actual injury, you won't be able to squat.
Yeah, so that was, like, a conversation yesterday. You were talking to somebody, I don't know who it was, but they were doing the back squat, um, and they had said something like, "I can't do this," or something. You're like, "Well, nobody's gonna be good at it, like, the first time, or when you're gonna step in to do
Mhm.
something that's outside your comfort zone, it's like, it's not gonna be great the first time you do it." I don't know
Well,
if
and
she was talking about
everybody
pain or what.
she was thinking that her technique wasn't perfect on a squat.
Oh,
It's like,
okay.
well, I don't necessarily want it to be perfect. Here's why. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons, but here's why you don't want it to be perfect. You're there to train. And
Yeah.
if training every rep was perfect, you actually didn't put a stimulus on your body to adapt because it already has it figured out. It has to reach outside of perfect in order for there to be a training stimulus. That's where all athletes live. That's why no wide receiver catches the ball the exact same way or takes the same cut the exact same way, right? Because athletes find different ways to do things depending on the tasks in front of them, and it's okay. It doesn't make it dangerous. It doesn't make it there's sometimes a more optimal way to do things, but ultimately what we need to be in training is just on that threshold where our technique isn't quite perfect.
Dude,
That's the
there's,
happy
like,
place.
I feel like I wish time would go slower because I feel like there's a huge conversation to be had about, like, not only in the gym or, like, working out, but, like, mentally and, like, dealing with adversity
Right.
and struggles and growth
Same
happens
exact thing.
in that uncomfortable zone. Like, we
Yeah.
tell Simon, like, "What have you failed at today?" It's like, dude, if he hasn't failed, he's not trying, honestly. So that, like, whole thing, dude, that's crazy. Okay. Alright, go ahead.
Yeah. No, and that's why, I mean, in my opinion, the things we can learn in CrossFit are the things we need to learn in life, but it's done in a more controlled setting and not in this setting where people actually depend on you. Like nobody's actually depending on you in the CrossFit gym, but your family is actually depending on you, your career and boss and all that, whatever, your colleagues, friends, they're all actually depending on you in some ways. And you can start feeling for where that is. So, like, if you've ever had a friend who's acting kind of weird and distant, it can be really uncomfortable to reach out to them in a more intimate way,
Mhm.
but that is the only way that you're going to create the bond that's needed to fix the problem,
Yeah.
right? So that's a exact perfect example of we need to get uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
So technique shouldn't be perfect. You should be a little uncomfortable. That being said, you should always be working towards perfect, right?
That's great.
So,
Yeah.
um, but that,
Circle of life.
here's what's funny is, um, now we can go into injuries real quick.
Okay.
All injuries take place when load exceeds capacity. So think of every joint has a certain capacity that it can withstand before its load has is exceeded that basically, right?
Right.
Now load can be a number of repetitions, it could be a weight on a bar, or it could be some other factors that require blood flow and lubrication of the joint, right? So there's multiple sides to it. There's, the obvious external components where it's like squatting, right? But then there's the not so obvious internal components, which is systemic inflammation, uh, leaky gut syndrome causing systemic inflammation, right? Or even acute inflammation due to like arthritis, right? Those are all different loads, but still impacting the joint of the knee, let's say.
This is why you talk about getting enough sleep and eating right.
Correct. This is exactly why. If you
What a
don't
great
if you don't
segue.
sleep enough,
Yeah.
the chances are you have a little bit more systemic inflammation, which means you're coming in the day with a higher load on your system. So the same 305 back squat for 10 reps is going to fuck you up, whereas it wouldn't if you had enough sleep,
Yeah.
right? And I'm putting numbers arbitrarily out there,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Everybody's going to have a different capacity, but that's essentially it. So when we look at like even freak injuries that we don't anticipate, we can sometimes look at the life around that and realize that there's been a lot more stress. Almost everybody who's had an injury that feels like it came out of left field can also say,
It
well, I
does.
wasn't sleeping good this week. My stress levels have been really, really high at work or home or whatever it is. And there's all these other factors that come into play where it's like, those are all taking up load.
Yeah.
It's
There it is.
not the obvious squatting load, but it's still load.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting to think about. Because I like, not gonna lie, I roll my eyes a little bit every time. I'm like, dude, I got 2 kids. Sleep is not on the
Yeah.
menu most days.
It's not going to be perfect.
Yeah. Um, but, like, that makes sense. When you put it like that, it makes sense. It's like it's all things affecting, like, your body.
Yeah.
Like, you
So
know?
you get a bad day, bad night's sleep. What do you do in the gym the next day? This is coming back to like, how do I avoid injury instead of
Mhm.
proactively prevent injury, right? So
Yeah.
avoiding
That's good thought.
injury, in the case like, okay, you didn't sleep well.
Mhm.
Does that mean you skip the gym? I actually say no, right? Don't skip the gym.
Yeah.
Go to the gym and then modify your intensity or volume or both, depending on how it's feeling that day,
Just keep
right? And
moving.
that's something nuanced, right? It's where it doesn't mean every 100% of the time you don't push yourself when you're tired. Sometimes you do. It just depends on what your goals are, right? But most people's goals or priorities are in their career and their family. They're not in their athletic endeavors.
Yeah.
That's like a backseat priority. And that's okay to have those other priorities. But if we know that 1 and 2 is family and career, then there's no need to be pushing absurd weight for absurd speeds and under absurd volume when you've slept 4 hours. Dial it back, take it a little slower. Maybe the weight stays the same and your rate decreases. So instead of doing a rep every 5 seconds, you're doing a rep every 10 seconds. Same
Makes
weight,
sense. Like,
right?
keeping an eye on the bigger picture. You don't need to go in there. There's no
A
scouts in the
hundred
gym.
percent. Most people, it's just a matter of being consistent
Yeah.
and coming. You're not going to be consistent if you fuck yourself up, right? So sometimes it's just a matter of playing that safe card where maybe you're scaling the weight, the load, sometimes the range of motion if it's a really big range of motion movement.
Uh-huh.
Um, but for the most part, it's just a matter of just watching those kind of factors: range of motion, load, and then your intensity should be thought of as not only the weight but the speed, the frequency of reps, right? And the heart rate, what it's elevated and for how long too, right? So there's a lot of factors that play in with intensity, but basically just look at those things, right? How much load are you going to lift? What's the amount of repetitions you plan on lifting? In what time frame are you going to do that? And in CrossFit, a lot of that stuff is set, so you just need to usually just modify one of those factors that you can. So if it's a 14-minute workout at 205 on the barbell and a 20-pound wall ball, then it's like, okay, maybe you're using a 14-pound wall ball and a 185 bar.
Yeah, scale back.
Or keep the wall ball the same, just scale the bar, right? There's easy ways to think of that. But does that then change your reps to a much higher rep range? Because if the answer is yes, then your volume just went through the roof because you
Yeah.
lowered the weight a little bit. So sometimes it's actually better to do a little bit higher weight and just go slow,
Yeah.
right? So I find that breathing is the best way to avoid injury. Why? Because you can monitor your intensity via the breath. If I'm breathing through my nose, I can't go super hard,
Yeah. I hate
right? If
that.
I'm breathing in through my nose and out through my mouth, I can go a little harder, but I still can't go super hard.
Yeah.
If I've lost all control of my breath, I'm clearly going too hard for a day where it's like, shit, everything feels like it's on me right now,
Yeah, right. On the
right?
load outside of the gym, it's
Yeah,
on
and
you.
what
Yeah.
duration too? Like if I'm doing a 40-minute workout, I'm not breathing through my mouth that whole time. Hell no.
Yeah.
I won't be able to sustain that.
Yeah.
So breathing, I think, is the key to avoiding injury.
It's interesting.
If I had
I've
to
been
say it
focusing a lot on
succinctly.
breathing
Good.
a lot
Have you noticed a
recently.
difference?
Yeah, actually, I have. We did that rower and the burpee over rower and the wall ball one, and I
Really
was
tough
like,
breathing workout.
yeah, it was like, man, I've got to get like my breath. I was almost using the rower as like a chance to catch up just a little bit
Yeah.
on the breath. But yeah, it was when you think about it and you are trying to breathe in through your nose. I can't do in and out through my nose because I feel like my nose is gonna fall off my face and dry up and bleed all over everything.
You have to
But
train it, but yes.
yeah, yeah, nobody likes nasal breathing the first time they try it. So, um, yeah, I've been trying to do that in through the nose, out through the mouth, and it's more approachable, and it's making some pretty good progress, I think, for me too. So
Yeah. Again, it's more about making sure that you can stay consistent. And if you wreck yourself every day, it's a matter of time before you are gassed and you can't make it back the next day. And uh, so here's this comment: the
goodness,
rower Oreo workout was really tough on breathing too. Yeah. So what we're talking about is just a little tactical tip that we give people when they're on the rower is in order to get them to breathe through their nose, we just stuff a few Oreos in their mouth
yeah,
and it
double
really
stuff.
solves that problem. They're not going to be able to breathe through their mouth at all.
That was fun to watch.
Oh, she was so mad.
It
It was
was
great.
funny.
I
It
mean,
was
great
funny.
now, not so
Yeah,
great. I was a little worried for myself that night.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, that we did a little skit with the Oreos on the rower. It was a little competition thing just
it was
for
fun.
funsies.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so that's a way that I mean, you could do that, something like that, right? Have something in your mouth. Have you heard of
gag.
people running a mile with the milk in their mouth?
That's disgusting. No, that's a bad decision.
Hey,
No,
milk is actually one of the best tools for hydration,
really,
like chemically speaking.
that's interesting.
I don't think your gut would love it too much.
No,
But
my
as
gut
far as
would
like
not.
balanced electrolytes, it's actually pretty solid.
Well, that's interesting. I have to give milk more of a go. I don't know if I'm
Only if your
on
gut
board
can
with
take
that,
it.
but
Some
yeah,
people's guts it doesn't do so well with. So,
not end up with leaky gut thanks to the podcast.
all right, I know this was relatively short podcast today, but Patty McMuscles has to go.
Gotta
So
go grab the kids and watch a bagpipe people
yeah,
play just around the corner.
so basically, hopefully you guys got something out of avoiding injury is really just a matter of monitoring your load, intensity, maybe frequency and time frame, and then using your breath as a tool to help you manage that.
I actually learned something, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Well, next week maybe we'll dig a little deeper into prevention of injury.
I love it. Nice.
All right, you guys.
Stay tuned. Like, comment,
See you in
subscribe.
Valhalla.
See you, Valhalla.